studio light white. Hey Google, turn studio light 85% brightness. I'm really on top of things today. Anyways, I am Jashikins, and welcome to another review that is not meant to be viewed by kids. And this has been a little bit since I've done a full-length review for everyone. I've been working on doing Dune reviews for my patrons on Patreon, so that's why you've seen me go pretty silent with these full-length reviews. And yeah, script's right here, camera's right here, and I have 3 cups. One with the mostly finished shake, which I'm saving till last. And 2 glasses of water, just because I know it's going to be a long time till this video ends, so I'm getting prepared. Anyways, I decided to read The Hunger Games as a movie adaptation of it was about to be released. When I found the book engrossing to the point I could hardly put it down and finish it within a week, if it even took me that long, I asked for the 2 sequels for Christmas. I was happy that the movies ended up being prime examples of how to do adaptations, so I was able to experience the wonder of the books on the big screen. So imagine what a happy surprise it was when a prequel was announced. Unlike some, I wasn't overly critical of Colin's decision to focus on a young President Snow, as the other books had been so good and the Hunger Games universe was so large that no prequel's topic would please everyone. Everyone would be going, why didn't it cover this or that, or why didn't it cover this character or that character? So, how did this prequel turn out? I think if you love the original trilogy, that how Collins decides to tell a new story will please you. And beyond this point, there will be spoilers. So, if you haven't read the book and care about spoilers, you should read the book first, because I will be spoiling pretty much everything. And if you're wondering where to get the book, you can buy the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes via the link provided everywhere I post this review. So, let's get started. And, I think for some reason I only mentioned the author's last name, but Suzanne Collins. Yeah, very similar to a U.S. politician, so sometimes politics throws me off a little bit for that reason. But anyway, this probably made more than enough time for the people who don't want to be spoiled to have left now and possibly read the book via the links. Anyways, part 1. The genius of switching from first-person POV to third-person limited POV. I'm still getting used to the new angle of the camera there. Anyways, there are 3 main point of views, also known as POVs. First-person point of view, third-person limited point of view, and third-person omniscient point of view. Out of the 3, first-person POV is the most personal, which means readers are able to connect with the narrator in ways other POVs don't allow. This closeness means readers more easily believe the narrator in first-person POV. This can lead to a straightforward story like the Hunger Games trilogy or the Animorphs series. It can also lead to stories where you have to read between the lines to understand what's actually going on, like Lolita, where a pedophile justifies his actions. Katniss Everdeen was the protagonist in the Hunger Games trilogy. She was clearly the hero of the trilogy and had no evil motives to her. So, having the trilogy be told from Katniss's POV didn't challenge young readers, and they could sleep well at night knowing it was okay to root for Katniss. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes has a much different protagonist than the Hunger Games trilogy. God, I forgot where the period was, so I think I sound a little bit like William Shatner there. Eh. Anyway, back to the review. Its protagonist is not a good person, even though he has good qualities to him. Plus, its protagonist is the antagonist of the Hunger Games trilogy, Cornelius Snow. And I believe that's how Cornelius is pronounced. I took an entire semester on Shakespeare, but we didn't read Cornelius, but the teacher did mention the play at one point. Anyways, I suppose an extremely bloody play. If I keep on talking about this, I'm honestly going to forget about doing the review. So the book having first-person POV could allow the intended audience, teenagers, not adults like me, and probably my viewers, to become too close to Cornelius to see his faults, to actually start to believe all his actions are morally justified. So Collins found a way for readers to get close to Cornelius, but not too close. Third person limited point of view. Thus, readers see the world through his eyes while constantly being reminded all of his actions aren't morally justified. That while he has his good traits, he is a snake that should never be trusted. Though, really, that's an insult to snakes who are associated with evil way too often. They're just cute little noodles. They're awesome. But, associated with evil. There. Another rant for another day. Now, I'm not saying this to imply that teens are idiots that can't handle unreliable narrator who is actually the villain. Vischer, a book in the Animorphs series by K.A. Applegate, was told from the point of view of a villain in the series, and readers were able to understand Vischer 1, aka Idris 562, was not in the right. What I am saying is that changing from first person POV to third person limited POV for the prequel makes the most sense when you consider how best to create distance from Cornelius. Part 2. Lucy Gray Bard seems too pure for the Hunger Games series. The Hunger Games trilogy had a love triangle. Normally, I loathe love triangles as they tend to be poorly done. It usually ends up with the girl choosing between a horrible guy and a great guy. The love triangle is also commonly used as a cheap way to stir up drama. The reason I like the love triangle in the Hunger Games trilogy is that it served a purpose beyond stirring up drama and the answer to who Katniss ended up with is a way to observe. Goddamn. I practiced this beforehand. I'm forgetting where periods are. Shit. This is great. This is great to screw up on a big video like this. Like, Okay, let's start that paragraph again because my tone reading it more than halfway through just screwed everything up. Okay, let's do this again. No more mistakes. No more mistakes, folks. No more mistakes. I'm gonna mess up later. The reason I like the love triangle in the Hunger Games trilogy is that it served a purpose beyond stirring up drama, and the answer to who Katniss ended up with is a way to observe her character. Because of this fact, I thought that Lucy Gray Bard would be as complicated, even though she seemed sweet and innocent on the surface. Throughout the book, I waited the moment she showed she was using Cornelius Snow to win the Hunger Games. But there was no grand twist like that for Lucy's character. She was just as innocent as she appeared. Sure, she had a personality to her, but she was usually as honest and kind as situations permitted. Heck, she even suffered PTSD from the Hunger Games. I guess Lucy being so pure is a good thing, but to me, it made the character feel disappointing. Part 3. The Exploration of Classism. Happy times! Classism is basically when one social class is held up above another. So a person from class A would be treated better than a person from class B. In the world of the Hunger Games, those in the capital tend to think of themselves as sophisticated, while viewing those in the districts as unruly beasts. The inherent classism in Panem was more likely made worse with the rebellion causing such devastation in the capital. Even though those in the capital viewed those people living in the districts as less than human, in the time of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, it wasn't common for people to watch the Hunger Games. Hence, the plot of the book being about attempting to make it so everyone would tune in to watch children murdering children. This book series is for kids. Damn. The Plinth family showed that those living in the districts could make their way to a home in the capital. However, the Plinth family also shows that you can't remove the fact that you're originally from the districts. The Plinths find themselves having to fight to earn their place in the capital. Cornelius Snow buys heavily into the capital's feelings on classism and does everything in his power to make sure that never changes. Part 4. The idea for the Hunger Games came from a school assignment. So, why were the Hunger Games created? The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes gives fans the answer to how the Hunger Games were formed. If you were expecting the origins of the Hunger Games to be dramatic, you'll be disappointed. While there was some thought put into their creation, it wasn't to the extent I thought. Casca Highbottom and Crash's Snow, Cornelius's father, had an assignment to complete together. They were assigned to decide on the most horrific way you could punish your enemies to the point they'd never be able to forget how they had wronged you. Great school assignment there. Casca did not want to do this assignment and had no plans to turn anything in. But Crashes got Casca drunk, so the man wasn't able to resist being manipulated. Once Cornelius's father got what he needed, he turned in the assignment for the pair of them. This one act of betrayal caused a rift to form between Casca and Crassus. The former man saw Crassus and his son and so loathed Cornelius. After the first rebellion, Dr. Gall ended up turning the Hunger Games into reality to punish the districts for daring to fight for a better life. Due to Casca's guilt of creating the Hunger Games, he became a morphine addict. Okay. Part 5. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes seems to shove two books into one. As Susan Collins hadn't disappointed me in the Hunger Games trilogy, I felt safe in pre-ordering the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I must say, it felt great returning to Panem, especially when this new adventure was told from a much different angle than Katniss's journey. In the Hunger Games trilogy, readers only saw Panem through the eyes of someone living in the districts. This made sense as Katniss was from one of the districts, specifically District 12, but as this book is shown through the eyes of a young Cornelius Snow, we are given insight into how those living in the capital view both themselves and the districts. Though Cornelius does show the capital people as being intensely classist, it's also worth noting that there are shown to be people in the capital that are very sympathetic to those living in the districts. While I heavily enjoyed the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, to me there was one glaring issue that made me not love the prequel as much as I could have. That was the fact it really felt like this book was trying to cram two books into one. The first part of the book told the story of how Cornelius helped his tribute win the Hunger Games. This was captivating to read as during certain points, readers were allowed to see a kinder side to the villain they loved to hate. While the evolution of the Hunger Games was interesting to see, it was even more intriguing to see what the daily life of someone living in the capital was like. Especially interesting on that front was the fact not everyone in the capital is rich. The second part told the story of how Cornelius was forced into being a peacekeeper after being disgraced, even though his tribute won the Hunger Games. In this part, he decides to go to District 12 to try and pursue a relationship with Lucy Gray, who was his tribute. And as the Hunger Games never mentions Cornelius having an epic love story, readers already know that the relationship won't end on a good note. Boy, does it not end on a good note. Both parts felt like their own books. While they were connected by Cornelius, that didn't feel like enough of a connection to justify there not being two prequel books to tell the future president's story. I fully believe that if the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes had been divided into two books, it would have flowed better. There wouldn't have been the sense that once Cornelius arrived at District 12 that things slowed down for a little bit. The the only reason I can think of on why Susan Collins decided on only one prequel book about Cornelius is that she didn't have enough material for two. While she took her time describing Cornelius and District 12, it felt like there was room for a larger story to be told. But I guess she didn't have the material and or didn't feel like telling it. Part 6. We get insight into how the people of the capital experienced the district's rebellion. While the Hunger Games trilogy detailed how Panem functioned, readers were only shown the district's point of view. The fact that those in the districts were treated as less than people is not something that is up for debate. The fact that not seen from the perspective of a person living in the capital means you're only seeing half the story is also something not up for debate. The original Hunger Games books were told from the perspective of Katniss Everdeen. This meant that those living in the capital were filtered through her point of view. In the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, we see the capital through Cornelius Snow's point of view. Though, as it's told in third person limited POV, it's less personal perspective than Katniss's. Part 7. The Death of Archie Crane. And I think I'm skewering that first name. And yes, I know it comes, I think, from Greek or Roman mythology. Just don't know how to pronounce the name. Anyways, one moment in the book that helps to display how depraved the classism is in the capital is when Archie Crane dies. During the events of the book, it had become common for the mentors, who were students, to bring food to their tributes. In fact, many living in the capital joined in on feeding the tributes. Archie Crane was raised to believe that since she lived in the capital, that she was better than anyone living in the districts. So she believed, no matter how she treated her tribute, that they wouldn't dare attack her. But what the young girl didn't take into account was that all the tributes already had a death sentence. Why would anyone that was about to die care to respect those that would kill them anyways? So, when Archie's tribute decided she was done with her mentor's teasing, a lesson was paid for in blood. Brandy killed Archie in anger so she could eat a small bite of the sandwich she had been teased with before getting shot. The capital could have mocked Archie for how she had been killed. They could have admitted that the mentor had been in the wrong. But that would mean admitting that those living in districts were actual human beings. So, to keep the status quo in place, the capital painted Archie Crane as a victim and used the mentor's death as an excuse to demonize those living in the districts even more. Welcome Cornelius's poisoning of them. Casca Highbottom never recovered from the guilt of inadvertently creating the Hunger Games. It was something that ate at every bit of him and drove him to become a drug addict. Once Cornelius Snow came back to the capital, he decided to let his anger for Casca to take over for a short time. He was done pretending to like the Dean. I like to headcanon that Casca noticed Cornelius put poison into his drug supply, and that's why he said, "You have a heart now." It wasn't because he thought Cornelius was visiting because he cared. It was because he knew Cornelius was going to end his suffering. And in any case, Casca won't be panicking about dying like Cornelius hoped. The Dean will be happy knowing that he won't have to live another day with the guilt. So when Cornelius Snow murdered Casca Highbottom, he actually performed a very caring action. Part 9. The Fate of Lucy Gray Bard. When Cornelius Snow goes to District 12 as a peacekeeper, he finds out Lucy Gray Bard is named after a poem with a character of the same name. The poem Lucy is named after involves Lucy Gray going out in a storm with her eventual fate remaining unknown. Like her namesake, Lucy goes out in a storm. Unlike the poem, Lucy goes out in a storm to look for Katniss while Cornelius makes up his mind to kill Lucy to ensure his own safety. Also, like her namesake, it's left up to the reader to decide Lucy's ultimate fate. My theory, yes, it took time writing this script, so I've been holding on to this one for a while. Anyway, my theory is that Lucy decided to pick Katniss to give herself time to think what to do about Cornelius. She figured out that he was the reason Sejanus Plinth died and doesn't like being with someone who lies. But she's still undecided about how to respond to Cornelius's deceit. Before she can make up her mind, she falls into the bramble too injured to get up. So she slowly dies as the boy she loved doesn't help her, but instead goes crazy in his attempt to kill her. And I don't think that's a really popular theory, but that is mine. And I didn't write in this script, about going into more detail. So maybe I'll do that later, maybe not, maybe I'll forget. Who knows? And that's one cup gone. And perfect time too, as this is the last part of the review. Part 10. A brief analysis of Cornelius Snow. Some fans worried that in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Cornelius Snow would be painted as a hero, because there's never been a story where the protagonist is not the hero. And Cornelius is, unsurprisingly, not the hero of the book. He's an extremely complicated character, and it's more than apparent he never had the chance of being anything but a villain with good intentions. I found that both Cornelius and Katniss were extremely similar to each other. Sorry, I'm adjusting for the camera again. I was like, I like this one position. No, what if I move this position? No, that doesn't work. Yeah. Doing supply, folks. And back to the review. I found that both Cornelius and Katniss were extremely similar to each other. Like Katniss, Cornelius put his own needs above those of others. He was more concerned about getting ahead in life rather than becoming a symbol. Though, like Katniss, Cornelius had those he cared about. The major difference between both was the ability to love. While Katniss preferred to think of how to survive, she was willing and able to think of those outside of her inner circle. She was able to be moved by the suffering of those who warned her. Even though she had no desire to be a figure in a war, she willingly became the Mockingjay. Cornelius, on the other hand, ended up thinking of love as being a weakness and a perverse form of manipulation. While he did want to become president to help people, he never thought of thinking of the districts as actual people. What helped shape Cornelius into the villain we know and hate is the war between the districts and the capital. After reading the Hunger Games trilogy, we're extremely aware of the hardships of what the districts went through, and so we side with them. But people in the capital, while not in the same state as the districts, also encountered their own pain. Cornelius, during the war, became distressed about everything he couldn't control. So he became obsessed with controlling everything to avoid the helplessness he felt during the war. I think without the war, he wouldn't have become the villain we know from the original Hunger Games books. During the course of the book, I found myself hating and loving Cornelius in equal measures. He isn't an unfeeling person, and so I sympathized with the pain he encountered throughout the book. Yet those feelings of caring for him were quickly followed by moments I just wanted to punch him. A quick way to understand Cornelius's point of view is his relationship with Lucy Gray. Just like the love triangle in the original books, this one isn't just about two people in love. It's diving into the mindset of the main character. Cornelius did love Lucy, but he did so in his own way. His romantic feelings towards her were based on him owning her. There is no problem with claiming your partner as yours as long as you allow them their freedom. That isn't what Cornelius did. While in the capital, he makes various remarks about wanting to make sure others knew that Lucy was his. Again, not in a cute, romantic way, but in an extremely creepy way. When he lives in District 12 as a peacekeeper, he needs to constantly make sure that there's no chance she is interested in seeing someone else. Unlike a good romantic partner, Cornelius is never able to put himself into Lucy's shoes and see from her point of view. While he does believe the capital needs to change, he never thinks of the districts as actual people, nor does he think ending the Hunger Games is a good thing. If his love for Lucy was good and healthy, he would have found himself disgusted with the capital and left everything he knew for his girlfriend. But, of course, Cornelius and Lucy never had a chance as a couple, since the original books never made mention of them marrying each other. So, the only sweet end for the two is in the magical land of fan fiction where canon can be left far behind. Really like moments like these for this chair. So, what tragic end befell the couple? When Lucy made mention of leaving Panem far behind, Cornelius agreed as he was worried about being executed. Earlier, he had murdered Mayfair up to cover up the rebels' plan to leave District 12 and the reach of the capital. So the pair made their way out of District 12 and stopped by the lake they had been to earlier in the book. In just a few short hours, Cornelius loathed the thought of living in nature. He began to think the only people that would enjoy such a life were not intelligent. As he considered himself intelligent, he believed that life was not for him. So his mood became sour until he found a stash of guns, including the one he had used to kill Mayfair. This gun stash meant there was no proof of what he had done. Plus, only himself and Lucy knew what had happened. While Lucy had told Cornelia she wanted to continue traveling north and leave Panem, Cornelius didn't trust her. So to keep his secret, he decided he would kill her. It is not known in canon what happened to her. Some think she survived and is one of Katniss's ancestors. But as I said earlier in this review, I think she died as Cornelius tried to find and kill her. If Cornelius can love someone and then decide to kill them the moment they endanger his way of life, how can he be friends with anyone? How can he have even a basic connection to anyone? While I can't understand people loathing Cornelius in the book, I found myself pitying the boy more than anything else. He had many chances to become a hero and wasted all of them. He had the chance to learn about the pain of the districts and didn't listen. Instead of accepting how evil the capital is and letting love into his heart, the message Cornelius took away was that he needed to rule with an iron fist to keep everyone safe. And that's the end of that review. Have you read of have you read of have you read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes? And if you have, what did you think? Please comment down below your thoughts and opinions. And please like this video if you did like my reviews and maybe some of my opinions. Also, remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel because do you know what the next review is? Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. Yeah, you know, Midnight Sun, that Twilight book of the first book told from Edward's point of view. It was made. I mean, I thought she stopped working on it forever. It would never happen, but this glorious piece of trash now actually exists. So that will be the next review you will see on this YouTube channel. And if you follow me and if you donate to my Patreon, the next review will be a Dune, The Ballad of Corin. But for everyone else, Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer will be the next review coming out. So stay subscribed because you want to see the review. And until next video, goodbye, and I hope you all are staying very, very safe. May the odds ever be in your favor. Bye. Oh yeah, that's the camera. That's where the feed is, and like right below the camera is where the script is. So yeah, I have to turn it this way to click end stream, and bye.